Is everybody here that's supposed to be here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can stand there. I'll kind of here.
Good.
Sheriff, I know the first thing that people want to know is we didn't hear from you yesterday.
Right.
When you saw that video, what did you think?
Well, you know, obviously it was inappropriate. We've set a level of professionalism in the agency that we're going to work to maintain. So responding to an incident like that the way we did, I think, sends a message not only inside the organization but to the community that we don't tolerate that type of activity. And again, you know, we've set that bar for professionalism, and we're going to work hard to make sure that we all, you know, maintain that.
Can you clarify for us, those who were standing around, I understand they weren't JSO officers, at least not all of them.
Well, we're still looking at that. Not all of them were, and we're still looking into that. And that whole aspect of the investigation, obviously, we dealt with the direct officer directly involved first. But that's part of the ongoing investigation that we continue to look at.
So that was a CSO officer. That's what it looked like to me, like one of those officers who I was wondering what would they even be doing at the jail anyway.
No, I'm not sure. I can't confirm because I don't know at this point who some of those other people were, what agencies they work for. But that'll be part of the investigation, and we'll release that as soon as we get to that point.
And can you talk about that second video that everybody has now? Because it looks just as bad.
Right. I mean, you know, we made our decision based on what we saw from the jail video. Obviously, that first video it gives me a lot of concern as well. And there is an investigation ongoing now surrounding the first video. So we're, again, looking at all this and being very proactive in addressing it and, you know, in dealing with the officers involved.
Sheriff, you've asked the community to help you with crime in certain neighborhoods.
Right.
But people are watching this video and they're seeing your officers stand around a very obvious crime in your own house. So what do you say to the community when they're looking at that and they're not congruent?
Well, I'll say this. I tell you, I think it's important to note that when we see the video or when we saw the video, that we acted on it. I think it's important to note that officers in that area are the ones that brought that to our attention, that incident to our attention, and we responded to it appropriately. And we are still looking into and digging into who those officers were that were standing around. Did they work for our agency? Do they not? The officers that were there, what vantage point were they at? Could they see everything that we can see on the video? So all that's under investigation. I think it's important that we look at all of that, and we are. So as soon as we dig into all that and get the details and really get to the bottom of that, we'll be able to talk about it more.
Let me ask you, is there a law enforcement standard, just kind of over the board, that says if you see something like that happening, you've got to step in and just say, let's take a step back and reevaluate?
I think more and more, absolutely, short answer to your question. I think more and more it's important for officers all around the country to do that, to really weigh in and respond. Listen, if something's illegal and something's not happening that's appropriate, everybody has a duty to step in and address it. You know, not just a supervisor, but a fellow officer to step in and address that, stop that behavior, and then report that behavior to the supervisor. So we talk that a lot and preach that a lot at JSO. So we want to make sure that that's happening.
Sheriff, just to clarify, yesterday JSO said, when asked about the officers or whoever they are standing around yesterday, witnessing a crime does not constitute a crime. Are you saying if they are JSO officers that it would have been okay for them to stand by it and just watch it?
No, absolutely not. And that statement didn't come from me. I can tell you this: if there are officers, who are committing a crime and someone sees that, they have a duty to report that, a duty to intervene. All of that is in effect. So again, as we dig further into this over the next several days and weeks and determine who was involved and who saw what, then we can take action on officers if we need to, based on what we believe they saw at the scene that day.
So if they are JSO officers, action will be taken?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if we determine that they were in a position to see the things that we can see on the video and they work for us and we decide that, look, there should have been a point where somebody intervened and they didn't, then that's a step that we can take to intervene and address it with those officers, absolutely.
Who else could they possibly be if they're not JSO officers in that holding area?
Well, there could be other law enforcement organizations that use our jail. So those officers could work for those other agencies and not work for me. So
What does your policy manual say
about
intervening? I mean, I've talked to former officers and current
Right.
folks that say this is not just a duty, but actual part of the policy.
Absolutely. I mean, you always have a duty to intervene, especially when it comes to the reporting of crime. So we're going to that's part of when we have an incident like this. We look at this thing top to bottom to make sure the policy is clear for everybody, that we all understand it, that it's written clearly enough, that people are observing it. Obviously, we'll take this opportunity as we finish the investigation to really use this as a teaching moment. from any of the other officers in the agency that weren't involved. But again, talk about it openly inside the organization and set that expectation for all the officers that this is what we expect from you on the street every single day.
So can you clarify again? So that comment yesterday about you see a crime, you don't have to report it. So that you're saying that didn't come from JSO?
No, I did not say that. I don't know who that came from. It didn't come from me, is what I said. So if an officer sees a crime, he absolutely has an obligation to intervene and to address that.
You know, I know this is under investigation, but since we have that first video now,
Right.
shouldn't that have been reported prior to that incident happening, that they have had somebody that they had to beat, and shouldn't there have been a supervisor or somebody called, at least at that point, to the Sally Port?
Well, there's a lot of things that should have happened, and we are looking into whether or not they did happen or not. Use of force reports should be written, those type of things. Supervisors called, if certain things happen. So that's part of the investigation that we're looking at today. At this point, I don't know. I mean, that's what we're looking at. So as we dig into it, we'll know more.
Sheriff, this officer was arrested in the past, yet he got hired at JSO. How does that happen?
Well, I can tell you that we look at, all of those issues as we bring people on, and we have an event like this. We're going to look back and see where in the system, did we fail in the system, or is this when we were giving a guy an opportunity, maybe he made a dumb mistake years ago, and we were giving him an opportunity to correct that, or he did correct it, and we're giving him an opportunity for employment. But we'll look at that as well. Again, as we get through the nuts and bolts and the meat of this investigation, we'll look back at and see, did we miss anything in the hiring practice? Did we miss anything in the process? Was anything skipped? And should he have never been hired in the first place? Again, a question that we'll not answer today, but we'll be able to answer at some point.
Can you tell me, this is sort of early in your term, and you're kind of trying to take these types of issues head on.
Sure.
You got to be frustrated because there's a lot of people in the community that say, how are we going to clean up certain areas of town if the House of JSO is behaving this way?
Sure. And look, that's fair, but I can tell you this is one officer, of over 1,600 that we have. And my gut tells me that these officers, 99% of them are out doing a good job for this community every single day. And when we see an officer do something like this, we have to respond quickly. We are accountable to the community for how these officers act. They are accountable for their actions. And I think to that person who would say that, I think you have to look at the fact that we responded the way we did, as quickly as we did, as transparently as we did, and we're going to continue to do that through this whole investigation. So you're right. I mean, we take these things very seriously, and we look to correct them as quickly as we can.
So you're saying it's not a black eye for the agency?
Oh, absolutely it's a black eye for the agency, but I think we can overcome it. I think the fact that we respond to it appropriately is important.
What's
Did
the
you talk to
timeline?
him? Have you talked to the officer?
No, I did not. I did not speak to the officer. No.
What's the timeline on the investigation? When do you expect to be able to give some of these details?
Well, typically it could be a couple of weeks or a month, depending on what we uncover as we dig deeper into it. So as soon as we have more information, we'll be releasing it and updating everybody on the investigation.
Is there a mugshot that's going to be released in this?
I don't know as of yet. We'll find out.
Is there a reason why it wouldn't?
No, there's no reason why it wouldn't. So
Of the officer?
of the officers, yeah.
Did he
not
sign the
public record.
waiver?
Yeah.
So we won't get
Yeah, it could be a public records issue. So.
How quickly did those other guys report what happened? Was it, minutes after what happened, or?
Well, that's what we're looking into now. I don't know the answer to that. So there should be not necessarily minutes, but there's documentation that has to happen anytime you use force in the agency. So we should have written reports. Those reports are obviously all time-stamped and entered into our system. So we will know when they reported it. We will know what they said on those reports. All those reports should match the arrested booking report. In other words, the documented facts of the case should all be the same. One thing about the truth is it never changes. So all of those things should be consistent, and that's what we're looking at now.
In the dash cam video, the officer hit her approximately a dozen times before she got cuffed. What is appropriate to get someone cuffed if they're fighting? Now, they're not necessarily being violent, but they're fighting.
Right.
Where's the line?
Well, fighting is being violent, but I can tell you this. I think that we have our level is enough force to overcome the resistance. So as you look at a video like that, you look at what point could that officer overcome that resistance, and at what point has he crossed the line, being aggressive. Listen, sometimes you have to get aggressive with people. It's not inappropriate for officers to punch people at certain times, but obviously there's got to be a lot of factors in place for that to happen. And in that case, clearly I have concerns in watching that video, and that's part of that ongoing investigation.
So did he cross the line in the dash cam video?
Oh, I think he did. But again, the investigation we'll get into detail about that, and we'll be able to resolve that piece.
Has that dash cam person, that citizen, reached out to you guys and provided you with that video?
I think we have a copy. I'm not sure. And I don't know that we've had any interaction with the party that took the video. We would, as part of this investigation, want to reach out and talk to them, obviously. But I don't know that we have a copy of the video, and I don't know that we have. I don't know that we haven't, but I can't confirm that we've talked to that individual.
Important though to your investigation?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I think it's important for them to weigh in.
Does it concern you from a timeline perspective that, if that is in fact the right officer and the right woman, and
Right.
that happened before the Sally Port scene and whatnot, that there wouldn't have been a trigger between those two instances that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, to your point, I think should something have happened right after the parking lot incident, and that's what we're looking at now. When did supervision know? When were the appropriate reports written? All of that would have maybe triggered an investigation on that incident without the dash cam video. So that's part of what we're looking at surrounding the parking lot incident.
Is this another incident that says and suggests that body cameras should be mandatory for JSO?
I think this is a good example of what a body cam can provide. So, and I've said before, look, I'm in favor of body cameras. We've got some serious budget issues in JSO. There are a lot of costs associated with the body camera program. The last thing I want to do is establish a camera program and, with just a few officers. I don't want to do that. I don't want to establish one that I have to, decommission a year later because I don't have any sustained funding to keep it going. So we've had conversations about that. We've talked to the city about that, the mayor's office, about where the priorities are. But clearly, as our budget, the budget ship rights itself, and we get in a better budget position, body cameras will be part of the equation. So, and I think a body camera in this incident, we've got a lot of camera footage, but it's good to see what camera footage can bring you. I still believe that we're going to get with body cameras, 99.9% of the time, we're going to get a lot of good officers doing a lot of great work, and that other percentage, we need to see that anyway, so we can take action on it like we did yesterday.
Next one. Anybody?
How do you say his name? The officer's name.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Thank you.